You know you're witnessing something wild when the biggest win of the game doesn't come from the field, but from the stands. The Cleveland Browns were supposed to be the punchline again this week. A 3-12 mess of a team, limping toward the end of another forgettable season. Quarterback drama, rookie confusion, no playoff shot, all chaos. And yet, one custom game day outfit just flipped the narrative before kickoff even happened. Dillon Gabriel wasn't starting. He wasn't even suited up. Just another rookie backup with a helmet and headset, stuck holding a clipboard while someone else ran the offense. But he didn't need to throw a single pass to steal the spotlight. Because when his fiancée, Zo Caswell, showed up in that retro-inspired, camera-ready Browns fit, the entire NFL world snapped its head in her direction. Twitter lit up. Browns fans forgot they were embarrassed. And suddenly, a team that hasn't had anything to celebrate all season finally had its unexpected MVP, and she wasn't even on the roster. But here's the thing, this wasn't just a viral outfit. It was a moment. A subtle shift in what the NFL has become. This league, it's no longer just about touchdowns and turnovers. It's about visibility, personality, and who can own the conversation beyond the whistle. And Zo Caswell. She just led the league in all of that before the first snap. She didn't post a caption. She didn't need to. The pictures said everything. Before the Browns even stepped onto the field, Zo Caswell had already made her statement, and social media couldn't stop talking about it. It wasn't just that she looked good. It was that she understood the moment better than anyone in orange and brown had all season. While the team walked into another meaningless game, Zo walked into a cultural moment. And owned it. Her game day outfit wasn't your typical throw on a jersey and call it a day look. It was a carefully calculated piece of visual storytelling, fashion with intention. A modern twist on throwback Browns aesthetics, the fit nodded to the franchise's history without dragging viewers into the past. Brown and orange never looked this good, and based on the thousands of reposts, story shares, and breakdown videos, she made the impossible happen. She made Browns merch cool. People who hadn't watched a Browns game all year were suddenly in the comments asking where she got the pieces from. Was it designer? Was it vintage? How did she get her hands on that combo of textures, tones, and tailoring that seemed to fit like it was made just for her? Spoiler, it was made just for her, not off the rack, not fan shop basics. This was a custom creation, and that's exactly why it hit different. Zo didn't just wear the team colors, she elevated them. There's something kind of poetic about that. A franchise stuck in neutral for the better part of the last 20 years finally catching a win, and it didn't come from a Hail Mary or a last-second field goal. It came from a fashion statement in the first row of seats. As players slogged through warm-ups with the energy of a team just waiting to start their offseason, social media was already buzzing about Zo's look. Between Instagram reposts, Twitter debates, and even fashion blogs that normally ignore sports entirely, her outfit became its own headline. But what made the moment even more powerful was how effortless it felt. She didn't look like she was trying to be photographed. She looked like someone who showed up prepared, confident, and completely unbothered by the media storm happening around her. That's the kind of energy that captivates people. She wasn't just someone's girlfriend or fiancé trying to grab attention. She was someone who already had it, whether she asked for it or not. While players were fumbling the ball on the field, Zo wasn't dropping a thing on the fashion front. She walked into that stadium ready to rep her man, her team, and her personal style all at once. And what's wild is this wasn't even her first time turning heads this season. Browns fans who have been paying attention know that Zo's been delivering strong looks week after week, from sleek pregame outerwear during the colder months to smart mix and match fits that walk the line between runway and tailgate. But this look, this was different. It didn't just go viral, it became the story. And that's not easy to pull off, especially on a game day where attention is usually locked on players, not their partners. Still, Zo managed to shift the entire conversation. Suddenly, sports podcasts that never mentioned the stands were discussing Browns' game day swag. Commentators were referencing her during sideline shots. Fan pages were updating not about the quarterback stat line, but about whether Zo Caswell had arrived. And look, fashion's been part of pro sports forever. But something about this moment was different. It hit in a cultural sweet spot. End of season, nothing to play for, a backup QB watching from the bench while his fiancée became the most talked about presence in the stadium. That kind of irony isn't just entertaining, it's magnetic. People didn't just enjoy it, they latched onto it. And in the NFL's current media climate, where off-field narratives carry just as much weight as what happens inside the hash marks. That's the kind of thing teams want, even if they don't know it yet. The Browns needed something, anything, to spark fan interest at this point in the season. And somehow, someway, it ended up being Zo Caswell in a retro-styled hoodie jacket combo, layered over a cropped Browns tee and high-end denim that was tailored to perfection. Add in the accessories, subtle platform boots, customized purse, full glam makeup without looking overdone, and you've got to look sharp enough to slice through the general gloom of a fan base that's seen too many losses to count. There was something almost strategic about the detail, like she knew cameras would linger, like she knew the internet would screenshot everything. And maybe she did, because in today's NFL, nothing happens in a vacuum anymore. Everything is content, and the women around these players know that. They know their looks are being analyzed and shared alongside player stats. They know a first-row seat can be just as powerful as the sideline headset. So while the Browns were figuring out whether Shadur Sanders could survive his trial by fire and Dillon Gabriel stood silently in a helmet without a single snap to his name, Zo Caswell had already made her mark, no scoreboard required. That kind of visibility, that kind of cultural virality, it's worth more than most people realize. And it's not just about fashion, it's about influence. Because right now, Zo Caswell is the reason people were even talking about the Cleveland Browns at all this weekend. There was a time, not that long ago, when no one paid attention to what happened outside the white lines on a Sunday afternoon. Football was football and everything else, just noise. But that era is gone, completely. Today, the game doesn't just live on the field. It lives in the tunnel, in the stands, in the pregame outfits, and across millions of phone screens before the national anthem even plays. We've entered the era where an outfit can go more viral than a touchdown. And Zo Caswell isn't the exception, she's the new standard. See, the NFL has quietly become one of America's biggest fashion stages. And the players, significant others, they're not just background scenery anymore. They're part of the product. They're influencers, brand builders, and in some cases, bigger personalities than the guys in the uniforms. It started slowly. A sideline glimpse here, a halftime feature there, then came Instagram. TikTok, red carpets to the tunnel. And suddenly, everybody was watching, not just what players do, but what their partners were wearing when they showed up to support them. Now, it's expected. If you're dating or married to an NFL player, game day is your runway. And don't get it twisted, this isn't just about posting cute photos in team merch. That's been done. This new wave is bolder, sharper, more curated. These women are turning football Sundays into full-blown fashion events. High-end pieces, custom fits, capsule collections dropped just for one afternoon. Some of these outfits are pulling more engagement than the players' stat lines. And the NFL? They're not fighting it, they're embracing it. Because in a league where franchises are built just as much on brand value as win-loss records, having someone like Zo Caswell show up and generate free, positive buzz is priceless. Most teams spend millions trying to get people talking. Zo did it with a jacket, jeans, and a sense of presence that couldn't be ignored. It's not just about clothes, it's about storytelling. Every outfit, every accessory says something. A nod to the city, a wink to the past, a personal signature. The best looks carry meaning, intention. And that's what Zo nailed. She didn't just throw something together that matched the Browns' colors, she told a story. A retro concept remixing modern styling with a respect for franchise history, worn confidently by someone who knew cameras would be watching. And while Zo was lighting up timelines, she wasn't out there alone. Because on the other side of the field, figuratively at least, you've got Polar Sanders, Shadur's mom, and a known name in these same circles. She's already a bit of a legend, famous for her magnetic, sometimes chaotic outfits at college and pro games alike. She doesn't care what anyone thinks. Bright colors, impossible heels, bold statements. She's been doing this for years. The difference this year? She's not the only one in the spotlight. Now she's got company. A new energy entering the fashion space, and this rising star doesn't play aggressive, she plays strategic. You could almost feel the contrast building, Polar with her flash, Zo with her finesse. Two completely different approaches, but both dominating headlines during a game that otherwise had no real stakes. And that's exactly the point. Because like it or not, these women are shifting where attention goes. No shade to the actual players, but when you're a team like the Browns and your playoff hopes are already dead, people latch onto what else there is to watch. They want drama. They want narrative. They want lifestyle. Yes, they want football, but they want entertainment just as much. And that's the new reality. Culture now drives clicks. Fashion drives engagement. The tunnel walk before the game might get more views than the post-game highlights by Monday morning. It's why NFL teams started doing photo shoots of player arrivals on game day. It's why fan accounts are exploding with tunnel fit breakdowns and wag-watch recaps after every Sunday slate. There's power in being memorable. And Zo Caswell didn't just make a moment, she became one. Not by yelling, not by posting thirst traps, not by trying to force virality. She simply showed up, represented her man, wore something that felt authentic to her, and let the rest handle itself. That's what makes it work. She didn't just ride the moment, she owned it. And you know what's most fascinating? This wasn't even supposed to be her moment. Dillon Gabriel isn't the star QB this season. He wasn't under center. He wasn't throwing for 300 yards or catching a game-winning touchdown. He was on the sideline, watching someone else live out the opportunity he's been waiting for. And somehow, his fiancée still managed to make him the name everyone was talking about after the game. That's not an accident. That's awareness. In a league obsessed with perception, image, and attention, knowing how to show up is just as important as showing out. That's exactly what Zo did. She showed up with class, confidence, and a fit so well done that it had Browns fans finally cheering about something. And sure, there's going to be haters. There always are. People who will roll their eyes and say, "Why should anyone care what the quarterback's girlfriend is wearing?" But that question misses the point. People care, that's the point. The conversations are already happening. The reactions already exist. The culture already shifted. This isn't just football anymore. It's narrative. It's style. It's the NFL version 2, and anyone not paying attention to that is already behind. The quarterback position is one of the most scrutinized roles in all of sports. Every throw is a test. Every mistake is a headline. But what happens when you're a rookie quarterback in the NFL and you're not throwing at all? Dillon Gabriel spent week after week doing what backup quarterbacks do, standing, watching, waiting, helmet on, eyes locked in, pacing the sideline like he's ready at any moment. Like the next drive could finally be his drive. But as the games go on and he stays on the sideline, there's a quiet kind of pressure that builds, not the pressure to throw a perfect pass, but the pressure of being forgotten entirely. That's the harsh truth of the NFL. If you're not starting, you're not seen. You're not trending. You're not part of the story. Unless, somehow, you are. And that's exactly what makes all of this so fascinating. Gabriel didn't touch the field against the Steelers. He didn't lead a comeback or throw a touchdown that got replayed on SportsCenter. But he was still one of the most talked about players on game day because of who stood by him and what she wore to do it. The narrative shifted. Not because Dillon made a throw, but because he mattered to someone who showed up and made him matter. It's easy to celebrate a quarterback when he's on a win streak. It's harder to stand by one when he hasn't even checked into a game. But that's what loyalty looks like. That's what Zo Caswell has done, quietly and consistently, every single week. And you know what? People notice. NFL fans aren't just watching the scoreboard anymore, they're watching the sidelines. They're looking for the story behind the stats. And when they see a backup quarterback's fiancée showing up with that much style, intention, and pride, it tells them one simple thing: this guy isn't just some nobody holding a clipboard. He's a name to remember. The game might not have given him his moment yet, but his presence still rang louder than any post-game interview. And that's the quiet power that gets overlooked all the time. Because while all eyes were on Shadur Sanders trying to prove he could be Cleveland's quarterback of the future, Dillon Gabriel didn't say a word. He didn't need to. His story walked through the stadium doors in heels, took a few photos, and hijacked the entire internet. Let's not downplay how rare that is. NFL quarterbacks get all the glory when they're winning, but when they're riding the bench, they get ignored, judged, or quietly pushed out of the frame. Gabriel could have faded into the background this season. Third-round pick. Unproven. Stuck behind a fifth-rounder who keeps getting starts despite inconsistent performances. It would have been easy for both him and Zo to play it safe, stay quiet, disappear until his name was called. But instead, she showed up like he'd just won the MVP. And in her own way, she gave him relevance, without him ever throwing a single pass. That's not just a fashionable moment. That's a message. It tells teams, it tells fans, it tells him you're not out of the picture yet, you're not a ghost on the depth chart, you're still someone worth watching. Even if the uniform's clean and your name doesn't show up in the post-game recap. There's someone out here betting on your future like it's already real, and it matters more than most people understand. Because the NFL isn't just a game, it's a business. It's a brand-building war. You're not just a player, you're a platform, you're a walking investment. And any player who can keep his name alive without being on the field, that's someone with value. That's not to say Dillon Gabriel's going to step into a starting role tomorrow. We're not predicting depth chart shifts or coaching decisions. But the fact that his off-field presence sparked this much engagement, that's a metric too. The NFL is waking up to that. Influence plays. And behind every great NFL influencer storyline, there's a human moment. Because if you strip away the filters, the photos, the TikToks, and viral tweets, what you're really left with is something simple and real. A guy trying to earn his shot. A woman who's been with him since middle school, still showing up with the same energy she had when he was throwing at high school practices. The emotional side of this doesn't get talked about enough in sports. But it's there, and it's powerful, not because it makes Dillon Gabriel a better quarterback, but because it keeps him visible in a world that forgets backups fast. In today's NFL, silence is dangerous. If you're not making noise on the field, online, or through your story, you fade quickly. But Dillon didn't need to say anything this week. Zo spoke for him, loudly, and maybe she didn't say a word either. But the outfit screamed what every backup quarterback wants people to remember. I'm still here, and my moment's coming. Some couples meet in the limelight. Others build quietly in the background, long before the cameras start rolling. Dillon Gabriel and Zo Caswell are the second kind, the kind of story that doesn't begin with fame, but with friendship in the most unexpected place, a middle school orientation in Hawaii. Picture it. Two kids in the awkward, anxious phase of life, surrounded by new faces, trying to figure out where they fit. No lights, no fans, no media coverage, just a hallway, a moment, and a connection. That's where it all started. Something so ordinary you'd never guess that one day, those kids would be on the verge of becoming one of the NFL's most visible young couples. From middle school to high school sweethearts. From homecoming dances to two-a-day practices. From quiet dates after games to plane rides across the country for college football seasons. This wasn't a relationship built overnight. It was layered, tested, solidified during the years most people barely know who they are, let alone who they want to build a life with. When Dillon started rising through the ranks as a high school quarterback, Zo was there. When the college offers started coming in, she was still beside him. Through his college journey, and it was a journey, from UCF to UCLA and finally Oregon, she didn't just stay, she traveled with the change. Adjusting, adapting, rolling with the chaos that comes when your boyfriend's life is defined by unpredictable schedules and constant pressure. And now she's here again, not just showing up, not just clapping quietly in the background. She's expressing herself, standing out, creating a visual identity that isn't separate from Dillon, it strengthens him. Every game day outfit, every photo that gets shared, it ties back to a long history of showing up when it matters. A lot of wags show up after the draft, after the first big contract, after the endorsements. But Zo and Dillon were built years before there was even the promise of the NFL. And anyone who understands this league knows how rare that kind of foundation really is. Because the NFL doesn't just test players, it tests couples. The pressure is nonstop. The attention is relentless. The road games, the training camps, the team switches, the drama, the injuries, the public commentary, it wears people down. Relationships buckle under it all the time. We've seen it. The headlines, the breakups, the scandal. Fame reveals cracks that people didn't even know existed. But Dillon and Zo, they've already seen each other through the long squeeze of growth. They've already dealt with distance, disappointment, change. Their story wasn't created by football, it just happens to be continuing there. That's why her showing up to every game, especially when he's not even on the field, lands differently. It's not for clout, it's not for attention, it's for him, because she's been there when the lights were off. And getting engaged right before Dillon's NFL journey began wasn't just symbolic, it was intentional. In 2024, right before one of the most stressful transitions in any athlete's life, they said yes to the future. Not future stardom, not future wealth. Just the real, uncertain future that every draft pick faces. That moment said everything. Because when most athletes are surrounded by questions and agents and projections, Dillon looked to the one person who always knew him as Dillon, not QB3. And that's the kind of stability that translates past relationships. It shows in how a player carries himself. It shows in who's there when the spotlight is. And it's exactly why Zo's presence now feels magnetic instead of manufactured. Because she's not a part of Dillon's story, she is the story that helped him get here. So when you see her standing on the sideline in that custom Browns outfit, it's not just a stylish moment. It's emotional shorthand for everything they've already been through. You don't get this kind of chemistry overnight. You don't stage this kind of support. You build it in the years when no one's watching. Every quarterback wants someone in their corner when the crowd's cheering. But very few have someone who stays just as present when they're holding a clipboard for 60 full minutes. And that's what makes Zo different. She's not playing an NFL character. She's not trying to launch a brand off her fiancé's name. She's just being exactly who she's always been, someone who's all in. Who's not showing up to be seen, but ends up being seen anyway because of how genuinely she moves. And for Dillon, that's not just a support system. That's a win, a rare one. One of the few that's immune to a losing season, QB controversy, or a brutal game day beatdown. Because when the final whistle blows and the headlines go out, only a few players get remembered for what happened on the field. The rest just get lost in the cycle. Unless, of course, you leave the stadium with someone who's already made you unforgettable. It's the kind of situation that's usually buried in the fine print of a mid-season storyline. Two rookie quarterbacks, drafted the same year, riding different waves inside the same collapsing franchise. But for the Cleveland Browns, the dynamics between Shadur Sanders and Dillon Gabriel have become something way bigger than a routine developmental experiment. It's never just about who gets the start. It's about who's being watched. And in a year where neither rookie has thrown enough to cement a future, every snap becomes a silent war for relevance. Let's be honest, things weren't supposed to unfold like this. Gabriel came into the league with something Sanders didn't, proof. A record-breaking college career, video game numbers, Power 5 pedigree. He lit it up at Oregon after showing flashes at UCF. Analysts said he had the mechanics, the tape, the discipline. Cleveland took him in the third round with the expectation that if nothing else, he'd be ready when it counted. Shadur Sanders, on the other hand, he came in with something different, branding, hype, a famous last name, the day and glow. Nobody doubted his talent, it was clear he could throw. But he slipped to the fifth round anyway, with whispers about scheme limitations and how much his college success could really translate to the pros. You didn't draft Shadur for polish. You drafted him for potential. High risk, high ceiling, very boom or bust. And now here we are, down the stretch of a hopeless Browns season. No playoffs, no structure, no clear plan. And Shadur's the one taking the snaps while Gabriel watches from the sideline, quiet, composed, controlled. But make no mistake, there's tension under the surface. Every time Sanders drops back, it's an audition, not just for him, but indirectly for Gabriel too. Because the question everyone's thinking but no one's saying is this: why is the fifth rounder starting while the third rounder sits? Maybe it's strategic, maybe it's desperation, or maybe it's exactly what it looks like. It's the Browns experimenting, hoping one of them shows enough spark to avoid another quarterback search next year. They're buying time, evaluating upside, seeing who rises through the chaos. But here's the problem with evaluating upside in real time: the wrong results get magnified. One big throw turns into a week of hype. One bad read gets you labeled a bust in waiting. And for Gabriel, every moment someone else gets, he doesn't. That's the uneasy truth about quarterback competitions, they're rarely fair. Shadur's playing, yes, but he's also struggling. He's taking hits, missing progressions, showing flashes one series and falling apart the next. Cleveland's offense isn't built for rookie development, it's built for survival, and it's failing fast. Meanwhile, Gabriel is absorbing it all, learning what not to do, watching how defenses disguise coverages, seeing what the Steelers are doing to mess with Sanders' timing. That may not show up in the box score, but it's real growth. And when his time does come, you can bet he'll have seen every mistake already played out in the most brutal way possible. But here's where it gets even more layered. While Sanders has his own cheering section, led by Polar Sanders, always loud, always commanding attention, Gabriel doesn't have to compete for spotlight, because Zo Caswell already grabbed it for him. And without saying a word, she's shifted the entire tone of this so-called quarterback competition. She didn't need to outshine Polar with louder colors or bolder statements. That's not her style. She came in with something harder to duplicate: subtle power, effortless cool. The kind of confidence that doesn't broadcast but still gets heard. And in doing that, she gave Gabriel an unexpected edge, not in the stat sheet, but in the perception game. Because now people are wondering, why isn't this guy starting? Who is this guy with a fiancé like that? Maybe it's time to see what he can do. That's the unspoken value of presentation in today's NFL. It's not just about who plays, it's about who creates a presence. And through Zo, Gabriel's name keeps finding its way back into the conversation. That's not noise, that's strategy. And don't get it twisted, this isn't jealousy. This isn't beef. Both quarterbacks are too early in their careers to burn bridges, but the quiet competition is real. Every throw Shedeur makes is another step toward or away from being the Browns' future. Every snap Dillon doesn't take is another chance slipping away until it's not. And when Gabriel's moment finally comes, if it comes, it won't just be about delivering a few clean completions. It'll be about stepping into a role people already see him in. A role Zo has helped define without saying a word on camera. That's rare and very smart, because right now the Browns aren't just looking for a quarterback. They're looking for someone fans believe in, someone they recognize, root for, rally behind. And Dillon Gabriel already has one thing most rookies don't: a narrative. One that's being watched, supported, and shaped by someone who's showing the world exactly how high his ceiling might be, without ever picking up a football. And that's something no depth chart can measure. This is bigger than a single game, bigger than one quarterback battle or a viral outfit from the stands. What Cleveland's going through right now is an identity crisis wrapped in shoulder pads. A team that doesn't know who it is, what it wants, or who'll still be standing when the dust finally settles. And in that kind of fog, every moment starts to feel like a test, not just for the players on the field, but for everyone tied to this franchise in the slightest way. For the Browns, these final games don't mean anything on paper. No playoff hopes, no division titles, just sad, open-ended football that feels more like punishment than purpose. But quietly, every snap matters more than the scoreboard ever will. This is audition season. And everything from how a quarterback carries himself on the sideline to who's still showing up to support him when the stands are half empty gets noticed. Shadur Sanders is in the middle of that audition right now. The spotlight's bright. The expectations? Murky. Is he the guy? Can he command a huddle? Handle full-speed NFL chaos? No one knows yet. He's raw. Flashes of brilliance, then long stretches of what was that? And because he didn't cost the team a top draft pick, there's always that underlying vibe like Cleveland's still not all in. Dillon Gabriel's audition, on the other hand, is invisible for now. It's the waiting game. It's being ready when it matters, no headlines, no rhythm, no guarantees. Just preparation no one sees and pressure no one talks about, because the cameras only roll when you're holding the ball, not the clipboard. And yet, in the strangest way, he's the more memorable figure right now. Not because of playing time, not because of numbers, but because of the image. The way he's been represented by Zo Caswell, not as the forgotten backup behind some scrappy fifth-rounder, but as a name, a presence, a future, which raises a brutal truth. In the NFL, sometimes the audition isn't just physical. It's perception, storyline, visibility. You can post career stats and still get overlooked if there's no narrative. And sometimes, the quarterback who hasn't thrown a single pass yet feels more real to fans than the one throwing picks on the field. That's where Gabriel is right now. Quiet momentum building under the surface. And that puts the Browns in an interesting position. Because here's what no one wants to say out loud. This franchise is running out of rope. Another failed quarterback cycle, another weak finish, another offseason full of coaching rumors and strategy resets, and fans are going to demand change that goes way deeper than just who's under center. They want belief, relevance, something to care about. That's why moments like Zo Caswell going viral actually matter. They inject energy into a flat season. They give fans a name that sticks, a face they recognize, a story they'll bring up when everyone else has turned off the TV. It creates emotional currency, something the Browns have been bankrupt in for years. There's a reason people still romanticize franchises with messy seasons but bold identities. Think the Lions, the Jets, even the Bears, teams with chaos but also character. The Browns, they've been stuck in a cycle of forgettable, nothing to grab onto, no hooks. So when something, anything, cuts through the static, it resonates harder. That's what makes Dillon Gabriel so interesting heading into the offseason. He hasn't won games, he hasn't led comebacks, but he has an energy forming around him now. One that feels new, personal, real. And when the front office starts looking ahead, wondering which players deserve to stick, they won't just be asking who played well. They'll be asking, who do fans care about? Because every team needs a face, a voice, someone the city can connect with, not just with touchdowns, but with story. Gabriel might not have put a highlight reel together yet, but his connection with Zo Caswell has already told fans everything they actually needed to know. That he's been consistent long before the league showed up. That someone believes in him so deeply, they're willing to shine even when he hasn't had a moment under the lights. There's power in that, and Cleveland's desperate for something powerful. So while Sanders has the stage now, there's still a pulse around Gabriel, a quiet movement. Something you feel more than see? It's in the way he stands on the sideline, still locked in. It's in the way Zo represents him, whether he's starting or not. It's in every camera shot that lands on them and somehow tells a more interesting story than whatever's happening on the field. That's not noise. That's the core of a long-term investment, one this team should overlook. Because as auditions play out and players get graded and decisions get made behind the scenes, one truth keeps rising. The Browns still don't know who their next face of the franchise is. But if they were paying attention, really paying attention, they'd realize someone close to Dillon Gabriel already made them look like winners in a season full of losses. And that kind of gravity doesn't come around often. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. In today's NFL, sometimes the game doesn't matter. Not for teams like the Browns. Not when your season's already lost, your playoff hopes are dead, and the only headlines your team generates are about who's starting at quarterback this week and who's likely to be job hunting in two. In these moments, when relevance vanishes and scoreboard totals mean nothing, image takes over. And ironically, that's where the Browns finally won this week. Not on the field, not in some buried highlight reel, but through a visual moment, one that had more impact than any broken tackle or garbage time touchdown possibly could. Because fans don't just consume football anymore. They experience it. They live it through stories, style, social media, and personalities. And as crazy as it sounds, the tunnel walk might be more viewed on TikTok than the touchdown that follows. The outfit might get more traction than the game-winning drive, if there even is one. That's why what Zo Caswell pulled off wasn't an accident. It was a case study in how the modern NFL actually works. In a week where the league gave people 16 full games to watch, one off-field fit shared from a stadium concourse managed to rise above the noise. Why? Because it told a story. It had identity. It had intention. And most importantly, it had energy, something Cleveland hasn't successfully bottled all season. The Browns haven't had a signature win in months. But thanks to Zo, they got a signature moment, and in this version of the NFL, that's sometimes even better. Welcome to the new rules of engagement. Fashion isn't filler anymore. It's become the game before the game. The runway walk before reality hits. And when the team gives you nothing to cheer for, the fan base shifts its focus to something even more human. The people connected to the story. The players' families, their fiancés. The ones who show up, speak volumes without a mic, and somehow remind you that there's still something worth watching in the middle of a broken season. People forget that this isn't just football, it's entertainment. The NFL stopped being just sports years ago. It's a 17-week episodic blockbuster playing out in real time across networks, feeds, trending pages, and podcast segments. And nothing thrives better in that media machine than style. Presentation. A moment that cuts through everything else and makes people say, "Wait, who is that?" This is why team brands now promote game day tunnel outfits. It's why stylists feel just as important as offensive coordinators. It's why wags like Zo Caswell and women like Polar Sanders have organically carved out empires in a space that used to treat them like background noise. They're not in the background anymore. Whether it's Caswell's retro, chic Browns ensemble that had fashion pages doing breakdowns by halftime, or Polar's loud, commanding looks that polarize feeds every time she steps into a stadium, these women are shaping narratives. Brands are watching. Cameras are lingering longer. They're not accessories to the star athletes anymore. They're the main character, too. And for franchises like Cleveland, teams too far gone in the win column to matter in January, this is their secret weapon. Game day isn't just a performance anymore. It's an Instagram as arena where impressions, connection, and visibility become the only real scoreboard that still matters. Zo Caswell just scored. She impacted the Browns brand more in one outfit than the entire offense has in 6 straight quarters. That's not an exaggeration. That's today's reality. When fans are disengaged, spiraling from the same script of losses and maybe next year press conferences, someone has to step in and give them something to hold on to. Doesn't matter if it's football. It just matters if it feels like a win. And that's why her moment hit so hard. Because it turned one of the most miserable, uninspired stretches of football into a cultural high point. It gave fans a reason to double take, a reason to click, a reason to remember. And it all comes down to one thing: presence. Presence is everything. You can be a starting quarterback and have no presence. You can throw 30 times a game and no one remembers you. And then there's a moment like Zo's where you don't have to say a word, don't even take the field. And people are still talking the next day, the next week, wondering what else is coming. That's not fashion. That's impact. And the NFL is paying attention, even if they don't admit it. Teams are starting to understand. Culture doesn't just walk through the tunnel in cleats. Sometimes it walks in heels designed by someone you've never heard of, wearing a jacket stitched with decades of franchise history, and a confidence that makes even losing feel iconic. Most franchises spend entire seasons trying to create a signature moment, a rallying cry, something that actually connects with people beyond a box score. Cleveland didn't find that in a late touchdown or a blowout win. They found it the moment Zo Caswell walked into the stadium and made every camera operator, fan account, and fashion blogger pay attention. And once people saw it, they couldn't unsee it. This season was supposed to belong to Shadur Sanders, the rookie quarterback trying to carry his father's spotlight all the way from Colorado to Cleveland. And in a sense, it did. He made the throws, took the hits, and got the starts. But week by week, Hollywood swagger didn't equal scoreboard results. And slowly, as the shine started to fade, something unexpected happened. The spotlight didn't vanish, it moved. And the woman standing directly in its new path was Zo Caswell. At first, it was subtle. A different kind of energy walking into the stadium. Not loud, not flashy, just intentional. Calm, stylish in a way that didn't ask for attention but earned it anyway. She wasn't demanding a narrative shift, but she created one simply by showing up different. That's where the contrast begins. Because on the other end of things, you've got Polar Sanders, Shadur's mother, and let's be real, a media storm in designer heels. She's never been afraid of attention. Never hidden her opinions or her outfits. Whether it's fur, neon, sequins, or feathers, she's worn it all, and she wants you to see it. Her presence has been a consistent part of the Sanders family's visibility. She's leaned fully into the NFL spotlight and made herself part of the conversation loudly. That approach worked for a while, it still works sometimes. But now there's a new force balancing out that equation. Zo Caswell represents the other way to own game day. Less noise, more polish, less showy statements, more focused confidence. Where Polar commands attention like she's walking a red carpet, Zo captures it like someone who already knows the camera is on her and doesn't flinch. This isn't about one look outshining the other. It's about two very different energies inside the same storyline. One anchored in legacy, one rising out of quiet loyalty, one wrapped in volume and defiance, the other built around control, subtle power, and a storyline that's just now catching national momentum. And whether these two have noticed each other or not, fans definitely have. Social media is already drawing comparisons. Comment sections are choosing sides, Team Caswell or Polar Power. Some people love Polar's fearless expression and over-the-top consistency. Others are drawn to Zo's effortless class and the way her looks highlight who she's with, rather than just who she is. It's becoming a matchup of more than just game day style. It's a test of influence, of identity, of who's actually shaping how we talk about the Browns on Sundays. And maybe the most fascinating detail of all, it's that these two women are centerpieces of a franchise that doesn't yet know who their quarterback is. Ironic, on the field, Cleveland still has more questions than answers, but off the field, the competition is clear and the stakes are different. This isn't about completions or passer ratings. It's about legacy versus emergence, established attention versus rising appeal, the comfortable versus the compelling. Polar Sanders has carved out her lane. She's been going viral since Shadur was dominating in college. She's bold, she's confident, she's a brand of her own, and she knows how to feed the fire. But now there's a new lead story developing in real time, one built off deliberate moves, soft power, and a narrative nobody saw coming. If Polar is the lightning, Zo is the storm that follows. And if the Browns weren't watching before, they are now. Because the story everyone assumed would be Sanders-centric has started to shift. It didn't take a playbook, just one look, one moment, one outfit that changed the way the audience saw everything. One woman stepping into her own lane without trying to compete and winning on presence alone. Is it a rivalry? Maybe not officially, but make no mistake, the dual energy of Polar Sanders and Zo Caswell is going to define how people experience Browns game days going forward. One wears her confidence like armor, the other wears hers like silk. You don't forget either. You just notice how different it feels when they arrive. And there's only so much sideline spotlight to go around. There's something ironic about how this season played out in Cleveland. All the planning, all the draft talk, all the rotations at quarterback, and still no clear winner under center. Still a losing record. Still a franchise searching for meaning in another year of chaos. But in the middle of all that, the team witnessed something rare. A quiet win disguised in denim and Browns orange that shifted the conversation entirely. Dillon Gabriel didn't throw a touchdown. He didn't make a highlight reel. He barely made the broadcast, but he showed up. Focused, patient, present, and beside him, someone who didn't just support, she elevated. Zo Caswell didn't wait for a trophy to show pride. She didn't wait for a stat line to be proud. She walked into that stadium dressed like her fiancé had already won. And the internet agreed with her. That's not just love, that's alignment. In a league where even starting quarterbacks get forgot overnight, she made sure Dillon Gabriel's story didn't fade just because his number wasn't called. She made sure people were still asking about him, still watching, still wondering what's next. And here's what really matters: it worked. The Browns may not have answered any of the big questions this season. They may not have found their future QB, or solved their leadership problems, or fixed what's broken in the locker room. But for one Sunday, they mattered. For a few hours, they dominated a different kind of scoreboard, the one where connection wins over chaos, where presence beats performance, and where a sideline moment becomes more iconic than anything that happened between the hash marks. Zo Caswell didn't just wear an outfit. She delivered Cleveland their most talked about success of the year. She proved you don't have to be in a jersey to make an impact. You just have to show up for real. And maybe that's the lesson no one wants to admit, but everyone can feel. Sometimes, the victories that stick don't come from highlight reels or fourth quarter comebacks. They come from the people who stay loyal when there's nothing left to cheer for. From the reps taken off camera, the commitment behind closed doors, the confidence to walk into a losing stadium and still carry yourself like you're winning. That's what Zo did. And that's why Dillon Gabriel is already ahead, even if the box score doesn't say so yet. Because when this season fades, when the analysts move on, and when the next quarterback controversy takes center stage, people will still remember the moment a backup quarterback's fiancé stole an entire NFL Sunday with nothing but unwavering support, next-level style, and a presence no one could scroll past. In a season full of LS, that was the win that actually mattered.